Hi everybody, I'm Jillian from JillyCakes. You might have seen us on Cupcake Wars on the Food Network. We won a couple of times. And today I'm here with PattyCake Productions to make some Hocus Pocus inspired cupcakes. So grab your spell book, light the candle, and let's mix some magic. We're going to cream the butter and sugar together with the eggs. So we're going to do 1 stick of butter. And then we're going to add to that 1.5 cups of sugar. And this is a regular granulated sugar. Then we're going to do 2 eggs. And we're going to add some salt. Salt can be just a regular table salt, sea salt, any type of salt is good. You just want to get a little bit of a savory ingredient to make sure that your cake doesn't get too sweet. And then we're going to add some vanilla. So now we're going to mix these ingredients together until they're light and fluffy, about 2 shades lighter than the color of the butter. Okay, so as you can see, we've creamed these ingredients together and they're really light and fluffy now. So we've got a much lighter color than what we started with. So now that we've got the butter and sugar and eggs creamed together, we're going to add all the dry ingredients. Now that is just flour. We're going to use a standard cake flour because that will give us a better leavening than like an all-purpose type flour. Next, we're going to do the liquid. So we've got the dry is all of the flour, and the liquid is actually a combination of 3 types of dairy. So this will help us to keep moisture in the cake over time. So if we're going to not be serving it for a couple of days, these will ensure like a safety net around your cake. So we're going to use regular whole milk, buttermilk, and sour cream. And then you're going to mix. You're going to want to start on a slow setting so you don't blow this all over the room. And then you can bring it up to high, mix for about 60 seconds. So you might have noticed that we didn't sift any of the flour. That's because we don't need to. We're using a mixer blade on this mixer that has a spatula on both ends, so that will mix it for us, so we don't have to do any of that labor-intensive scraping down the bowl. So now that we've mixed together the dry and the wet, there's only 1 step left, and that's the leavening. Sometimes in recipes you would use a combination of baking soda and baking powder, but I like things to be a little more experimental. So we're going to use baking soda and some white wine vinegar. So if you've ever seen a volcano in a science class, that's what we're doing. So you're going to add your baking soda all in one spot. This is very important. And then you're going to take your vinegar and you're going to put it right onto the baking soda so that it does the little sizzle. When you hear the sizzle, you've done it right. Now we mix. Down in the description, we'll explain to you how to make all 3 Sanderson sisters, but today we're going to focus on Winnie. If you were making Sarah, you would stop right here at the vanilla batter. You would just scoop her, and she's ready to go in the oven. For Mary, we're going to be using a pumpkin batter. For Winnie, we're going to be making apple. Now, the apple and pumpkin will actually be made the same way. You just would use apples instead of pumpkin. So the instructions will be in the description. So to make our apple batter, we're going to portion a little bit out, about 50% of this batch that we made. And then we're going to add some apple puree. So you could use anything, a jarred, pre-made apple spread, a jam. I'm using an apple filling that I made that we'll also fill the cupcakes with later. So we use about 1/4 cup. So because we've added extra liquid in the form of fruit to this batter, we're going to need to add extra leavening. So that's where we're going to come back in with the baking soda and the vinegar one more time. And then we mix. Now we're going to add a little bit of cinnamon because apples and cinnamon go well together. You could also add some ginger or some nutmeg as well. So for getting an even portion, the best way to do that is with an ice cream scoop. So we're going to just scoop the batter. You want a nice flat amount so that you don't blow up over the top and get really tall. And we're going to scoop 1 scoop into each cup. And now it's time to bake. You want to preheat your oven to 325. Now that we've let our cupcakes cool, we're going to set them aside so we can make some icing. Okay, so for icing, we're only going to use 4 ingredients. Everyone should have these at their house so you can make icing anytime you want. We're going to start with butter. And this should be room temperature. You don't want to have hard butter straight out of the freezer or straight out of the fridge because it won't mix properly into your icing. Then we're going to follow that with a bit of powdered sugar. And then some vanilla, of course. And no matter what flavor icing you're making, you should always add vanilla because that makes sure that you have a well-rounded flavor. And then we're going to start the mixer on very, very slow. And we're going to slowly add the milk in. You don't want to do this all at once because you might not need all of this milk. You might need more than this much milk. It all depends on how much powdered sugar you've used. I use about 3 cups to about a half cup of liquid. Now you want to mix this on high, on the highest speed, once the ingredients are all incorporated, so that way it lightens, again, about 50% in the color of the butter. So that way you know that there's enough air into it. Okay, so at this point we have our vanilla buttercream. This can become any flavor no matter what. You could stop here. For here we're going to add some food coloring in, yellow, to make it for Sarah, but everybody else will be getting different types of icing. But this is a universal base that you can use for all flavors. Now, of course, we want it to be the color of her hair. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to add some coloring. We're going to actually add not just orange, but also ivory, so that we get more of a ginger color versus a straight orange color. Okay, so we always want to have a little surprise inside the cupcakes because that makes them more fun and more interesting. So we're going to be filling all 3 of the sisters today. Mary, because she's pumpkin, is going to get a cream cheese filling. Sarah will have a tart cherry, and Winnie will have an apple. Now, for your icing, you want to use a piping bag. You don't need to have any sort of fancy couplers or anything. I like to just cut off the end and put the tip straight into the bag. You want to fold the bag over about halfway. And you want to cup your hand like a C shape on the inside of the bag. That will give you a little holder to keep your hand clean and also keep the top of the bag clean while you're filling it. That way, when you flip the top open, nothing is coming out the top of the bag. Now I've already gone ahead and made some purple for Mary, some yellow for Sarah, and some orange for Winnie. Now for Winnie, we're going to use a grass tip to get her fancy hair curls. For Mary, we're using a standard round tip in a number 804. And for Sarah, we're going to use a closed star in a number 807. So for the 3 sisters, we're going to start with the easiest first and then go up to the most difficult. For the easiest, we're going to go with Mary. She is a straight round tip, and she's just basically a swirl that we're going to put a little off kilter so we can get that nice swoop on her hair. You're going to hold the bag tight with your non-squeezing hand, and your squeezing hand, which should be your dominant hand, so whatever hand you write with should be your squeezing hand. You're going to go straight over the top of the cupcake, about 3/4 of an inch above the cupcake yourself, and then you're going to do a nice even squeeze. You want to go around once. We're going to go around twice, a little off to the side, and then we're going to do a double tower ball. So for Sarah, we want to replicate her long wavy hair. So we're going to actually build up the middle a little bit, and then we're going to pipe her hair down the sides. So we're going to start right over where we put our filling and put a little bit just right over the filling so that way it doesn't leak out. Then we're going to make a little tower of icing. Now we're going to come back in on our little tower of icing, and we're going to start at the top, and we're going to do a little wave all the way down to where the top of the cupcake is. So from the top of the little hair puff, wiggle, 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 and straight down. You're going to do this, go all the way around, and then that way you'll have her hair. So for Winnie, because her hair is so tall and we really want to get that volume, but we can't just get that with icing, I actually baked a few extra cupcakes. Now these ones don't need to have the fancy paper because we're going to cut them and use them as a way to shape the top of her hair. So we're going to take the cupcake, baked, and we're going to cut off just the little muffin top part. So you take that, eat it, throw it away, do whatever you want with it. Now that we have the bottom, we're going to peel the paper, and you'll notice that this is tapered. So see how the bottom is a little bit more narrow than the top. So we're going to take the taller side, which is the side that you just cut off the muffin top from, and we're going to make a little V-shaped notch so that we can get those two sides of her little hair puff to really stand out. So now we're going to assemble the Winnie cupcake. First, we want to add just a little bit of icing so that we can stick down her little hair puff. And we're going to use the grass tip, and we're going to go in a little circular swirling motion so that we can get just the center full. Then we're going to do the two sides, and then we'll fill in all the way around. Now you want to keep an even pressure while you squeeze, and make sure that you're doing little circles with the icing bag the whole time, so that you can really get that nice curl to her hair. She's a little wild, so feel free to make it fun and do it any way that's most comfortable for you. And here we have our finished cupcakes. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Greetings, Dumpling. I don't suppose... Oh, marvellous. Ta-ta! Sisters! We've been immortalized in sugar!
You know what? She can have it. I baked a little something extra.